Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can see more content like this. So today we're going to talk about my experience dating older and how older doesn't always mean better, and how I became a single parent at a young age. I was 16, and kind of like an advisory kind of video, because I see a lot of girls watching content that's saying, oh, you should date older, you should date older. And it's like, older does not mean better. Older does not mean he has your best interests at heart. Doesn't mean that he really truly values you, even when you're bushy-tailed and wide-eyed and you have that pure intentional love. Because when a guy is older, he's experienced and seen and done things, and then he feels like he could pull one over on you. And not just that, his tolerance for your immatureness, even though it seems fun at first, it actually becomes really damaging, not only to the relationship, but it becomes damaging for you to see somebody just like not be able to explain to you what's wrong and stunt your growth, and them expect you to know what a person their age knows. So when I was 14, I met this guy. He was about 22 at the time, and we got into a relationship. It ended around the time I was about 19 or 20, and from that relationship we had a child together who is now a teenager. And it was one of the hardest experiences in my life. I had to take a lot of accountability for the decisions I made, but when I have taken this accountability, especially talking to my teenager since he was little, telling him how I feel, what I did, what I didn't do, you know, even he was like, this was like last month, he was like, Mom, can you just stop saying sorry all the time and apologizing for the past? You do know that you were like my age when you had me. I don't even know what I want in life. So I can't imagine what you were going through. And as he gets to know his dad, he realizes this guy doesn't like improve. Like, you know, he's 40, I believe. And it's like, he doesn't even improve on his, you know, mindset. So for my son, it's more like, oh wow, this guy really didn't love you. He just loved the idea of you, or loved the control he had over you. And I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to share that with my son. It took time, and he started learning that by the relationship that he's developed with him, which really doesn't seem like the heartiest relationship. Very shallow and superficial. And you know, all I can do is like, you know, you never know how people age. You know, I'm sure that his dad would never guess that I have this personality now, you know, or that I look like this now, or I talk like this now. Like, I don't think you would even think that. So when I had my son, it was so hard, because I had just went through that whole traumatic relationship that was full of physical and verbal abuse and control. And then on top of that, I had a total disconnected relationship with my parents, because my parents have this really controlling, like racist, like ultra religious mindset, super controlling, narcissistic stuff. Like, you know, and I went through other abusive situations while in the care of my parents that were terrible. And there were situations that were terrible, and they kind of just shrugged it off and didn't care. And the same thing happened when I was back home in my country in DR, where I experienced abuse, and it was basically like, oh, it's okay, that's how guys play. One of the worst experiences I can remember that really changed the way I looked at guys, besides the fact that my dad was a total deadbeat It was my uncle doing some really weird stuff to me. It was extremely inappropriate. But it's also, I remember a guy that would come over to hang out with my aunt, and my aunt is disabled mentally, and he would take advantage of that. And one day I told him, like, why are you coming to see my aunt? And he's a cop. He had a really big, and he basically took that and put it down my pants in my area and pressed it and said, what are you gonna do? And then he lifted and it's a big one, and he basically kind of ruffled my shirt, like in the chest area, and was circling it around and was like, but your boyfriend's not gonna do nothing about it. I was like, I'm gonna tell my boyfriend, Anyways, I told my grandmother about it, and she basically said, that's how guys play. So, like growing up in that environment where no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it's always like, it's whatevs. It's whatevs. It's whatevs. It just got to a point where, as far as my sexuality, I just didn't feel like it really had any value, because nobody really showed like they cared about it. It was up for debate. It was up for abuse. It was up for question. Like, it was really weird. So, I think that I went a lot of my teenage life looking for protection and love, especially as an only child, because I didn't have that. I didn't have anyone in my corner, and I didn't have any protection and no guidance. It was very much like, you got to do this because you need to keep up appearances, or you got to do this because you got to please others. It was never like about me. So when I met this guy, I thought, wow, he's artistic, he's cute, he's all this stuff. And, we had a great connection as far as chemistry was. But now looking at it as an adult, it's like, why does a 22-year-old have great chemistry with a 14-year-old? Like, what do we have in common, right? Anyways, so we ended up having this relationship, and I definitely felt like I wanted to be loved so much by him. And when we would break up, and I would be like, I love you, I want us, make it work and whatever. And then he'll be like, F you, forget you, And then he'll turn around and be like, I want you back, I love you, here's flowers, notes, cards, candies, blah, 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 write you like a novel. It was very much, it was definitely giving Romeo and Juliet, only toxic and Latin. And it was very interesting because I just never had anyone say kind words to me. But as fast as he was giving me those kind words and those words of affirmation, it was as quick as he would take it away. Also, he had a drug problem, so I didn't do any drugs until I got a little bit older. But I did try drugs, I didn't do them frequently, but I did try drugs when I was younger. But that's a different story, y'all. I have so many horror stories from church. I don't even want to get into it in this video. Well, this kind of ties into one of our worst fights in the beginning, where I didn't really understand what was going on. Again, I'm 14, 15, maybe that. Basically, I had went to church. A girl there asked me if I wanted to get high with her. I didn't know what, I thought that it meant pot. It was actually, right? It was that white stuff. And she gave me a bag of it. I tried it. It really didn't do nothing for me. I took it home. I told him about it. He came over. He literally threw me around that room like a rag doll and told me that it was just like, you girls shouldn't do this. Women don't do this. Good women don't do this. Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that's why I didn't finish it. Like, I only tried a little bit and I didn't like it. So I got it for you because this is something that you like to do. So again, like, there was just a lot of things as a kid I didn't understand. Like, I didn't understand why he was so angry. And I feel like maybe for him, he thought I was like the purest thing. But by then I had experienced so much trauma that he didn't even know about, that when I did share my trauma, he basically tore me a new a-hole and like basically abandoned me emotionally. And instead of saying, you know what, like, I know like you went through a lot, I want to be there for you, I love you, you know, you don't have to experience this, he turned around and said, yo, this is why your parents don't love you, this is why you know, you're not worthy, this is why I treat you this way. And it was just so sad. I don't even, like, I honestly have not one tear to shed about this, because I think I shed so many tears in my teenagehood and my youth that there's just not, there's none for me to shed. Like, there's literally nothing for me to shed. And so let's get to the point, right? So he didn't fit the definition of what my mom wanted. My mom wanted me to be with a guy who's like 6'2", white, rich, pop, pop, pop. I chose a Latin guy who likes to write music. You know, and he was also low-key just very prejudiced over I don't know, I would say colorist. He just did not, every time he would get mad, he would then attack my color, which was interesting because my mom would also do that in different ways to me. So it was like, dang, I can't even get out of, like, I get out of my mom's house, she treats me like trash because I don't fit the standard of her beauty, and then I'm in a relationship with someone that's making me feel like I'm not good enough because of how I look. Then, like, why did you date me to begin with? And then it started, my thoughts started ticking, and I'm like, maybe he dated me because he couldn't find anyone within his desired standard that really wanted him until he got older. And even that, I question if it's even legit, but I really don't care. As long as he's happy and he stays the hell away from me, beautiful. Not to say that, you know, like, there's anything going on there, but it's just like, I would rather him be entertained with someone that he thinks is great. Like, beat her up. God forbid he doesn't beat her up and treat her like trash, but child, do that over there. So being a parent was so hard because the beginning of being a parent, I was so quiet. I could barely speak. I had no emotion. And I did not feel a strong connection because I felt like it was his way of like sticking it to me and like not taking responsibility for his actions. And I had to be the one that had to do all the emotional labor and physical labor to be there for my kid. And eventually, you know, it was hard, but my son's love was so strong for me. Like, he loved me so much. And of course I loved him too, but he had this already deep intellectual understanding that I was just like, whose kid is this? Like, he was just so deep and would have these very, just these questions about life and love and people and God and, you know, just so many things that I'm just like, wow. Like, even he started making me think about things that I didn't normally think of. So I'm really grateful for that. You know, not everybody gets lucky to have like a child that is that way, who's gifted in that sense, or who, you know, expresses themselves at such a young age like that. But you know, I believe that a lot of the times the children that come into our life really come either from them picking us or literally a reminder of our decisions. And I think for me, it was a little bit of both. You know, a reminder of the decision I made to get in a serious relationship with an adult, but also everything that I went through and that empty void. While some people say, you know, children don't fill that empty void, I do believe that my son did fill that void I had to some capacity. I'm not saying that I don't feel emptiness sometimes. I'm just saying that a lot of that void that I had definitely got filled with my beautiful son. Now, I don't recommend any young lady to get in a relationship with an older guy. Because a lot of times these older guys are not thinking about, yeah, I want to put her through school and I want her to grow with me and I want to appreciate and value and cherish her, especially because she's young and she's like experiencing life and she's gonna go through a lot of things or experience some of the things I experienced. They're not thinking that way. They're thinking about, how can I control you? How can I make you a trophy? How can I make you my slave? How can I, how can I, like the guy says, impressionable? How can they can impress you or impose on you? And I feel like once I lost that feeling of being impressed by him or the attraction, because a lot of times older guys feel like they can let themselves go when they're in a relationship with a younger person because you don't have that much experience. You're gonna realize like, wow, like these guys just are looking to let themselves go and do whatever they want with you, and you just stick by them because you don't have any experience. So I just really think that there's nothing wrong with you dating someone that's around your age who has the same morals and values as you. Because, people are going to do whatever they want to do at any age. If they want to cheat on you, they'll cheat on you at any age. If people want to become successful, they'll start at any age. It's just that people have been conditioned that you only become successful when you're in your late years. And that's not for everybody. Not everybody is successful in their late years. Some of them do start in their early 30s. Some of them start in their 20s. There's teenagers now that are entrepreneurs. It's just that they have not been taught to be this independent. And so that's why I teach my son to be an independent person, to be creative, to be innovative, to think about what his life is going to look like 10, 20 years from now, so he can give his future family a great life. So yeah, it was a hard experience. It was definitely not something I recommend. It was something that it was painful. Childbirth is painful. The experience of healing was painful. Postpartum depression was horrendous. Thankfully, my body didn't change extremely, but there were some changes. But yeah, I don't think, if you're not completely financially ready for it and you don't have a person that's in your corner as far as like their parent that's really devoted to being a great parent, don't do it. Because he didn't come into my son's life or back into his life until my son was around 11 years old. And he's 16 now. And a lot of the times his father would only show face when he was dating someone who was like questioning him about, are you gonna see your kid or what? And I think that he'd only show up so he could look good or appear to be a better person than he was, whilst being in those relationships. And it's sad. It's sad. But I learned a lot. I learned that, you know, through the healing, obviously in therapy, that a lot of the decisions I made were because of the trauma I experienced when I was younger, and I was just looking for a protector and someone that was gonna love me and take care of me. And now it's more or less like, I don't want to say I'm indifferent to the situation, but now I look at it like I was just a child and I really didn't have any direction. I didn't have solid explanations for why to get in relationships with people and the reasons why, and what does 10, 20 years later look like for me, and what's the point, and what I need to think about or look out for. I never had the conversations of red flags and birds of the bees. So I just feel like if you are thinking about dating someone that's older and you happen to be a teenager, or you're a younger girl, you know, early 20s, you know, really consider what this person says about what they want their life to look like in their 50s or in their later years. And if you really want to be the person who's sticking by that, who wants to be a nurse, who wants to be taking care of a person that doesn't really, you know, care about you, or a person that's just going to replace you for a younger person. Then and I say that because, like, even when me and him were going through things, I thought that I was the isolated incident. I thought that I was the only minor that he had a relationship with. And then when we went through like a separation period, I found out that he got with some 14-year-old. And that was really sad. It was really depressing. Not because he was doing that. It was more or less like, oh, he's like, is he treating this kid the same way he's treating me? So yeah, just be really careful out there with these older guys. Their intentions are not always pure, and they're not always looking to take care of you and lead you down the right path. And a lot of these guys don't even have the energy to be parents. They just want to be able to say that they had you, or that, you know, that's my ex, she got my baby, like, you know, and whatever you do, don't be the second, third, fourth baby mama. I mean, I was the first woman he had a child with, or the first child he had a child with. Child, oh my God. But yeah, don't settle for being the second, third baby mama. Like, you will not like that. You will realize if he wasn't good to all these other kids, he most definitely isn't going to be good with the one that you have. And if he is good with the one that he has with you, there are always going to be these other kids and that energy from these other kids behind, you know, waiting for the day that this confrontation will go down, you know. And then there's the fight of assets and this and that. And 9 times out of 10, dudes that are really irresponsible don't really know what to do with what they leave behind. So then it just becomes a shit show. Okay? Yeah, that's literally all I wanted to talk about. If you guys want to know more about like this experience and what it was like to be a teen mom and being in a relationship with an adult, just leave a comment so we can talk about it some more. But until next time, see ya.